Hi, this is Ep90 and this is the Happy Weight Podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about lessons that I learned losing weight, and I think there's a lot of them, so I'm only going to cover like 4 or 5 today. So this came about because I was interviewed by a journalist last week for an article. She was like, so how did you lose the weight in the end? And I suppose when people ask me that question, I just think of, those ads where someone's holding out the big trousers, or, the cover of a Slimming Club magazine or something, the whole like, I just made up my mind and I stopped eating trash. And I just don't believe that's realistically how it goes when people permanently get out of eating and weight issues. Like you can do that kind of hobby dieting over and over again, where you cut out everything and you rapidly lose weight, and then inevitably you fall off the wagon and have to eat normal foods again and regain the weight. So it's a big old waste of time. So healing is a very, very different thing. So when she asked me that, I was like, I don't feel it was like that. I feel that it was actually, I stopped forcing myself to be a higher weight than I was naturally. So like I was yo-yoing 3 sizes up and down, which was like also 3 stone up and down. And I felt I had no control over my eating and no control over my weight. So then healing for me, what that meant was no longer doing the yo-yo, like almost like letting my body breathe a bit. Because when I had looked at my erratic history with eating and weight, all I could kind of really remember was erratic force feeding. So whether I was force feeding myself low carb diet food, or low calorie processed foods, or high protein processed foods, or whether I was force feeding myself timed breakfast, lunch, dinners, shakes, or I was force feeding myself cheat nights, cheat days. It was a lot of like enforced eating on my body. So I suppose what was a real turning point was seeing that I done this. You know what I mean? Like as in, it wasn't my childhood. It wasn't my mother. It's not my metabolism. It's not the government. It's not the processed food industry. There was many, many, many times where I was alone in a room force feeding myself. And that's just the clearest way to look at it. And so I kind of think it's all about the questions we start asking ourselves. So rather than asking ourselves, how do I lose weight? I kind of think a better question to ask is, what am I telling myself when I'm eating with urgency and no enjoyment? Like, what story is going on in my head? Because, maybe you don't live in a famine, basically. Maybe you live in a place that there's food in the fridge, food in the freezer, food in the shops. You've some few bob to go get some food. So when we zoom out, and we're kind of like, why was I eating like food was going away? Like, what was I telling myself that made me eat in such a rushed way, like it was going to be taken off of me, or that it was going away? Like, what do I keep telling myself that makes me eat like food is scarce when it's blatantly not scarce? So I think that was one of the things. And then also asking myself, like, I suppose I kind of see now force feeding, right, is like, so your taste buds are kind of saying like, this is really mediocre. This is really mediocre. And then we actively keep eating. So our mind is telling us some story again that means it's really desperate, really important, really urgent that we keep eating, even though our body is clearly saying, I'm not encouraging this. And another version of that, of course, is if our belly is absolutely, it's not hungry, it's not full, it didn't ask for anything, it doesn't want any interference, it like, or we're full or we're very full. And then again, our head coaches us to keep eating, keep eating, keep eating. So, I could kind of zoom out on those moments and be kind of like, that's really strange, because food isn't going away. And like, what's the problem? Like, as in, if my belly is full, what is so wrong with having the rest later or tomorrow? And the same with like, if my taste buds aren't enjoying something, there's another 9 million foods in the world and 9 million opportunities to eat nice foods. So, what's going on with me that I feel this is my only shot at eating it? So, it's kind of really looking at those things I think is important. And I suppose another thing was, like I was saying about interfering, like force feeding and interfering, like our body not remotely asking for a breakfast and us being like, well, you're getting breakfast. And, like how I see it, and science is showing more and more, is like our body, when our body isn't hungry, it's really busy. Like there's a lot of things healing and taking place and processing when we don't have hunger. So like there's that science now that kind of like when the kids are out of the house, there's more cleaning done. You can get more cleaning done if the kids are out of the way. And it's the same with food. Like those gaps between our eating is when healing occurs. And I kind of think our anxiety and our franticness to lose weight makes us want to do something, take action, make a plan, cut out of food, buy a treadmill, buy a juicer, sign up to something. We want to keep taking actions. But now I think it's really worth seeing that all my frantic actions have got me and kept me in a weight problem. So coming out of a weight problem would be experiencing more peace and calm and waiting and trusting. Because ultimately, getting out of a weight problem is a big game of trust. We're trusting my stomach will tell me when it's hungry, it will tell me when it's full. Even those times where I seem to be eating a lot and still not full, there will always come a point where your belly says it's full. Same with taste. Your taste buds will never forget to tell you what's yummy, what's not yummy, what's mediocre. And also the big game of trust that there will always be more food later. There will always be more food tomorrow. So when we have a lot of trust, we can do a lot of waiting. Like when we have real trust that there will be delicious food later and we will allow ourselves eat it and our belly will tell us when it's enough and it will stop us before too much, we can really just hang back and let the body heal. And that's, I suppose, how I saw my weight loss or, getting out of eating issues, because it was a healing process and it wasn't just the kilos, because, like my weight was changing all the time. Like as in I've been this weight many, 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 many times. So it wasn't as if I had never been this weight before, but it was that it was unstable and it could skyrocket up and I could binge and I could go out of control and come back again. So healing is a lot of things, because having a calm, like peaceful relationship with food changes everything. Like one of my clients was complimenting me there yesterday, which was so lovely. She was like, God, you always look so well and your skin is nice and stuff. And I was like, oh, I feel so cheesy and corny saying this, but I think it's like that Roald Dahl quote, of when you have nice thoughts, they shine through you. Because I've been this weight, I've been thinner, and I think I looked worse at times just because, again, the frantic control and food noise and food judgment and judgment of myself and my body, like, just in terms of if your body is either in healing or fight and flight, my body was always in fight or flight, so it's really hard for our health, our immune system, our nervous system, and all those things that, basically help everything go well in our body. It's hard for them to function right. So that was a big one anyway, kind of without any blame or shame, knowing that my body was ticking along grand. And then I interrupted it with these rules and these plans. And I force fed it certain meals. I force fed it cheat days. I force fed it a million different plans. I exercised it. I didn't exercise. It was never listening to my body. So that kind of accountability is huge, that it's the brain that done this, it's our mind. And now to let healing begin and weight loss begin and everything else, it's like, okay, now I have to like let go and trust and really start clicking in to, my individual body in individual moments or hours. Another one that became really important, and I saw this time after time, is you have no choice but to turn guilt into gratitude. And, believe me, don't believe me, but you're going to learn this on your own journey anyways. So it's kind of like you always have the option, right? You always have the option of being like, that was disgusting that I ate the burger and chips and chocolate and sweets and ice cream and everything last night. That's so disgusting. What is wrong with me? I'll never change, blah, 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 blah. We can always go down that road, right? So that would be guilt, and that would be like really partaking in the mental noise that someone with a weight problem would have. But obviously, we don't want to mimic the actions or the results of someone with a weight problem anymore if we want to get out of a weight problem. So gratitude is a whole different ball game. And like, I kind of think introducing gratitude to absolutely every single part of eating and your body changes everything like really quite quickly. So gratitude then would be like, oh my God, I'm so happy I had 4 chocolate bars, not 6, because I easily could have had 6. And it was so cool that I only had 4. And to be fair to me, I also could have opened those things in the freezer, and I also could have gone down to the shop and got something else. And also, say it was something like, say, a pizza or something, and say that one last slice was the one too many. That was the one that really made me kind of be rolling around in bed, being like, oh, why did I eat that? And I kind of think we always have to think that things are happening to us for really good reasons. So it's kind of like, I'm really happy I learned that lesson, that last slice of the pizza was the one too many. Like, that's really useful, that I can really remember the feeling I had in my belly, and I can remember the kind of forceful eating thoughts that I had in my mind just before that one last slice of pizza, because I intend on going out for pizza again, and I might be going to a nicer place with pizza, and I want a long happy life with pizza. So I actually want to learn these lessons. And unfortunately, the only way we learn lessons usually is the hard way. It's from something being uncomfortable, which teaches us, the contrast of what comfortable would look like. So I kind of think we always get to be like, I'm so happy that that happened now, and not at another kind of situation where it might be really uncomfortable, or it might be really unfortunate to be very overfed or uncomfortable considering the plans I had later that day or whatever. So always be grateful for the lesson. And again, with my vivid imagination, I imagine a bully that is, or eating and weight issues, waiting in the wings, hoping that you feel like a fuck up. And anytime that you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I learned that lesson. Oh my God, I'm really proud of myself. Like, anytime that your shoulders back, chin up, being like, wow, I'm really moving forward with these lessons. It's like the eating disorder is crumbling and dying. Like, pride kills disordered eating and weight problems. So you being like, that one valuable lesson could actually, like, literally, help me for the rest of my life. And I'm not even joking, because sometimes it's like we'll have a bad enough stomach pain or an uncomfortable enough time with food that we're like, do you know what? That does not suit me. Whatever about weight, I do not like feeling like that. So those uncomfortable moments become the making of us. But there is always an opportunity to turn guilt into gratitude. Always, always, always. And if you think there isn't, if you think like, how the hell could I be grateful about this? Where you're coming from there is a perfectionist mentality, which we have to be constantly on our toes about with eating and weight issues. That perfectionism is part of it. Like, good day, bad day mentality is perfectionism. That, like, if you had 2 biscuits too much or something, it's a bad day and you've ruined it all. Or if you haven't lost 3 pounds this week, it's a bad whatever, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully you're not weighing yourself. But that mentality is the antithesis of growth. So instead we want growth. So like, guilt would be that this is perfect and I didn't do it, or this is the expected journey of eating or weight loss or healing and I'm not on track. And that's all perfectionism. And gratitude, I think, for me, the easiest way to go about it is, what is the worst case scenario? What is the situation I've had with eating that was worse than that? What were my opportunities to eat more or do less exercise or take care of myself less? And then be proud of ourselves that we didn't do that, if that makes sense. Then the next one is that there are no shortcuts. There are no, like, you think like, oh, and I always have to tell my clients about this as well, because they could be like, oh yeah, what Aoife's saying is cool, and I'd love to believe that, and I'd love to do that. But I also might try and speed up what she's saying by cutting out bread or avoiding chocolate or whatever. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I've been doing this 20 years nearly. I am talking about the quickest way to results, because what people learn over and over and over and over again until you realize what you actually do want is that okay, if I could just do this thing before a wedding, or if I could just exercise more, or if I could just wake up at 7 every morning next week, or if I could just cut out these foods, or if I could just like whatever diet or erratic short term thing, it's really easy to take the bait and be very logical about it and be like, well, that would mean less calories. So, of course, that would help my weight loss, but not always in the medium or long term. And I often come across people and they're in a slimming club and they're delighted with life. And, then I start thinking, oh, geez, maybe there's an exception to the rule. And every time this happens to me in real life, I'm like, give it a year, give it 18 months. You will meet that person and they will be like, I'm so out of control. Oh, don't look at me. I'm as fat as a fool. Like their weight stigma has got worse. Their guilt has got worse. And for that whole season where they were super controlling, now they have to put up with the equal amount of time or more of being out of control. So don't take the bait that dieting is quicker. It never is in the long run. We have to get out the other side of eating and weight issues. And out the other side of eating and weight issues is being a competent eater. So that means you start eating bread today. That means you buy ice cream in the shop if you wanted today. We need the practice of becoming a normal person with every food. And the only way you can become a normal person with every food, the only way that you can actually hear your signals saying, actually, this doesn't taste that good, or actually you're full, is experiencing an abundance of food. As long as you're restricted with food, your mind will always tell you eat more, overeat, don't listen to your signals. So you actually need to be engaged with whatever foods you've been restricted from in order to be able to hear the signals of you've had enough or it's not that nice or whatever. So it's like the sooner you want to be out of eating and weight issues, the sooner you want to be your ideal weight, well, the sooner you need to bring in any foods that you've been restricted from and practice, and not give up practicing, because it's actually a shorter journey than you think. Like restriction, like I said, is the longest possible road that, to be fair, sometimes in lots of cases, never leads to our happy weight. The next one, you may or may not like this. There's no soft way to say it, but what I learned from my own journey is fattest get fat. So that means when you look in the mirror and you've noticed you've put on a bit of weight and you've noticed or your jeans are tight or whatever, if what you take from that, right, if what you take from looking bigger in a photo, clothes being tight, clothes not fitting, you putting on weight, is you're a disgusting person and you're a failure or whatever, I think because when we have that attitude, we really keep a weight problem, because life is complex. Eating is complex. And we could have had a lot of stuff going on over the last few months, the last few years. And it's not as binary as we are a failure or we fucked up. Like that's a really stigmatized, awful way to look at weight. And what I learned from my journey is the more weight stigma you have, sometimes the more it's the less likely it is that you'll ever become your ideal weight, because bodies fluctuate. Like our body will always fluctuate. We'll always have seasons where clothes are a bit tighter, clothes are a bit looser. We're always going to have that. But if you are so unforgiving that fat is bad, fat is a failure, like it's going to be incredibly hard to get to a healthy weight or to stay there. And the other thing about it, and I think just karma is a bitch, is it's not only are you blocking yourself from, losing weight, but you're also putting out an incredibly destructive message to young girls, to your nieces and nephews, to your own kids, to like, we can all blame the media for weight stigma and we can blame lots of things on weight stigma. But I think we have to check ourselves out first. Do you have weight stigma? If you see a photo with a double chin, how do you react? If your clothes are tighter, if something's not fitting, if you've put on a bit of weight, are you bringing weight stigma into the world? I think it's a very important question. The alternative to weight stigma would be understanding, like I said, that life is complex. We are complex humans. Emotions are complex, and that there's no game over situation. So we could have had a season, even if it was a season, even if it was 20 years, where our eating was chaotic. I think the only way to react to that, first of all, is God love us. Like, that was no fun. Like, as in, no one is having fun in eating and weight issues. It's not fun. Like, obviously, if we could not be in eating and weight issues, we would. So it's not as if we were greedy, lazy fools. Like, and that's what weight stigma kind of insinuates as well. So it's like, no, like, have some compassion for the complexities of life and emotion and eating, and be like, oh, God love me, that was, it's been an awful road, or it's been an awful phase, or, the amount of times I felt very sad about my eating or very sad about my body. And I know other people don't feel like that, or probably don't have to put up with that so often. So, like, God love me, that's been really, really hard. And my poor body, like my poor body had to put up with my mental mind. Because, like I said, our body is just, programmed for optimum health. And then with all the bullshit going on in our mind with dieting or weight loss or rules or restrictions or good or bad foods, we keep like interfering with its natural process. And we keep like interjecting with food or rules or whatever that are actually just making a healthy weight less likely. So again, the crossroads that you face when you look in a mirror, when you notice clothes are tight, is like, what would kindness look like? What would, compassion look like? What would, don't even want to say forgiveness because you haven't done anything wrong, but you could kind of take the kind of spiritual good person kind of meaning out of that. But then just the kind of calorie meaning out of it is, most people are comfort eaters. So if you do go down the weight stigma road, you are, investing again in a lower mood, a feeling of failure, a feeling of loss, a feeling of being behind. And you kind of have to take accountability for the risks you're creating there then with emotional eating and binge eating. So I suppose that's another thing that I learned on my journey, is it's kind of real accountability. It's like, when am I actively putting myself in a mood that would then cause me to eat more? Like, I did that. Or when did I not prevent a mood getting worse? When did I not interject and rescue myself from mood going down or getting too tired or getting pissed off? When did I not interject and save myself? So really seeing, again, the bird's eye picture, because when people are not moving forward with eating and weight issues, they can be very one-dimensional. They can be like, I shouldn't have overeaten. And, there's no self-reflection. There's no looking at the situation, the obstacles, the triggers, the learnings. It's just, I was bad for doing that. And, you're just never going to get anywhere with that judgmental approach. And then last but not least, I think what I've learned, working with myself and working with others, is we're actually learning the same lesson over and over again. So whether you have 10 stone to lose or whether you're maintaining your ideal weight, the biggest monster you're going to have to deal with is your mind telling you you are not where you should be. You would be happier if you lost a bit more weight. You would be happier if your eating over the last few days was better. So at any point, that monster can jump in. And at any point, if you take the bait, it's going to mess up your eating and your weight. Because if you take the bait, right, and you're like, oh my God, I'm not where I'm meant to be, I need to fix this. So then you're going to interject with the natural flow of the body. You're going to interject foods. You're going to interject timings. You're going to interject things that don't feel good, or plans or rules or whatever. And all of that will have a consequence. All of that will have a consequence of burnout, cheat days, overeating, or whatever. So we have to kind of keep steady Eddie. We have to keep treading water, like keep our head above the water and not do anything that would rock the boat. So we need kind of strength, and we need kind of strength and stability in today. And I think what that looks like is, I am exactly where I need to be. I am proud of every decision I have made, because it has either moved me forward or I have learned from it and taken a valuable lesson that will help me for the future. And, you know, I am proud of my body. I am proud of all that it's put up with from me over the last few years. And I'm amazed at how healthy it is. And I recognize how lucky I am with my health and weight compared to so many people today. So I think that whole narrative is the opposite narrative to the weight problem one, which is I'm not where I'm meant to be. So that is one, like I said, that we're going to have to really be good at fighting off. I think it's super important. So I hope you found today's episode helpful, and thank you so much for being here. I really, 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 really appreciate it. If you'd like me to do an episode on any, you know, if there's any little part of your journey that you're finding difficult, please let me know. I'd love to do an episode on it. And you can follow me on Instagram at HappyWeightAoife. You can sign up to one of my online courses. You can work with me one-to-one. I think that's it. So thank you so much. Have a lovely week. Mwah.